Hello and welcome back to Josh Davidson Books, my author YouTube channel where I'm currently continuing my reread of my very first novel, Werewolves Hide, in preparation of my working on the sequel, Book 2. If you enjoy this chapter or have enjoyed any chapters, please consider picking up the book. It's just $4.99 for the digital version. I've got a link in the description for all the versions of the book. If you want a physical printout for paperback or hardcover, those are available. And not only am I reading the chapters, but I am offering author commentary. So I'm interrupting the story to share some of my thoughts on the writing process as well. And again, this is not meant to be an audio book. I'm not performing it. I'm literally just reading it for myself to refresh my memory of the story. Here we go. So we just had the big reveal of Hank says Bo is a werewolf. He's a werewolf too. And then the dark wolf with the 3 white slashes was jumping around in Blue Ridge Park and took their head off and was revealed to have a human head underneath. Chapter 12. Madison enters the quaint police station in a hurry. It's mid-afternoon and the sunlight glistens off the glass doors while they swing open before slowly closing. She lifts her newly purchased sunglasses onto the top of her head as she briskly walks into the lobby. I always love little details like that in stories where some altercation or interaction happened earlier and like off screen or out of story, the character addressed it and fixed it. It's like now Madison finally bought herself sunglasses since she argued with Bo. I always thought that was a nice touch. Let's see. As she briskly walks into the lobby, there are various tack boards clipped to the surrounding walls with different Blue Ridge police stories and report a crime signs pinned to them. She ignores all of this, including the old faded newspaper front page about her son's accident in the corner, and marches straight to the front desk. Behind the protective glass and cut-out holes, there sits a low-ranking officer. She's eating a salad off to the side as she works through the lunch hour. The name Tony appears on a temporary name tag that is clipped to her uniform. As Madison approaches, Officer Tony quickly tries to finish her salad bite and drink water so she can assist. She addresses Madison through the holes in the glass. "Can I help you?" She responds quickly. "Yes, hi, thank you." She sees the salad behind the desk. "Oh, you're on lunch?" The officer smiles and laughs. "Yep, but it's okay. What do you need?" "Great, thanks. I'm on lunch too, so I'm in a hurry. I was trying to get a police report." The officer reaches for a form and slides it under the glass. "Okay, so we just recently started our transition to digital, so what you'll want to do is go ahead and visit this website, fill out the information in detail, and then submit your payment information for the request. Once everything processes within about 5 to 7 business days, then a copy of the report will be created and mailed to you at the address you provide." Madison's eyes glaze over, as this all seems a little unnecessary. But the accident happened here. You have the report here, right? The officer nods in the affirmative with a smile. "So just get it." Madison makes her suggestion straight and to the point. The officer wasn't quite prepared for the pushback. "We'll see, we're digital now, trying to be more modern and convenient. Really, it's for your convenience. See, with the new system, you won't even have to come down here anymore. You can just order it right from your home." Madison isn't in the mood for this and expresses as much. "Okay, Salad, it's not personal. Obviously, we're both just trying to do what we need to do. But I need someone else then. Who else can I ask? Or should I just go downstairs myself?" So I just loved this idea of, things being forced on us that is supposedly for our betterment, but seems worse. And once new processes get in place, how old, simpler processes get washed out. I love technology. I love the digital age. I'm a part of it. I grew up in it. I benefit from it, but I still can understand and appreciate the need for a variety of different options in a lot of places. So I just thought it would be a nice little kind of just overall commentary about people changing to digital after analog or physical, and then just a nice little bit of a comedy there. Let's see. The officer tries unsuccessfully to keep persuading Madison. "Well, no, see, there's no one else here because you asked for a police report and I'm telling you the way to get it. I understand it's less than ideal and not what you wanted to hear, but it's correct, unfortunately." As the officer continues to bumble through more explaining, the sheriff of Blue Ridge walks around the corner from out of his office. He's a few years older than Madison and has a white goatee with a matching white scruffy beard. His giant cowboy hat blocks the sun's rays from the window blinds while walking across it. He overhears the discussion and tries to interject to help. The sheriff speaks with a gravelly southern drawl as he tips his hat to Madison. "Excuse me, ladies, I was eating my lunch myself in my office, but couldn't help but overhear the conundrum. Thought I'd try to jump in and help out if I could." Madison reads his badge. "Theron." As in Chase Theron? Madison asks like she knows that name. The one and only, ma'am. Have we met? I'm usually out and about quite a bit, but don't think I can recall seeing you before. Sheriff Theron reaches out his hand for a handshake. She does not accept the gesture. Madison is stern and cautious. No, we haven't met, but I remember who you are. Your name was given to me during my family's accident investigation several years ago. I'm here for a copy of that report. Sheriff Theron tilts his head to the side, confused as he tries to remember. I'm real sorry, miss. Don't take it personal. I got a lot of years under this belt and seen a lot of things as an officer and a sheriff. Why, just last week we had that terrible blue truck crash out on Highway J. Folks just trying to visit our great state and beautiful park. Just tragic. Madison can't fake empathy this time and gets to it. Yeah, tragic. So anyway, I was explaining to her, Madison points at the low-ranking officer at the desk. She's chewing a mouthful of salad. I need a copy of that report. Theron doesn't hesitate. That's not a problem at all, ma'am. Personally, I hate the digital change and just want to do things the old way, the way I always have. You just slide her the $5 fee and I'll take you down to get it myself. Madison reaches into her pocket and hands over the cash she already had prepared to pay. Sheriff Theron smiles and motions for Madison to follow him. Right this way. The front desk officer presses a button under the glass and the locked double doors connected to the lobby open up. Madison walks through them and follows the sheriff in his direction. They walk together in silence down the hall before finally arriving at the door. It has a sign above it with a picture of stairs next to the words Records Office. The sheriff unlocks the knob by using one of the many keys on his giant key ring. He steps aside and waves his hand for Madison to walk past him. After you. Madison looks down the long, dark staircase. The sheriff reaches in behind the door frame and hits a light switch. It turns on a low, glowing, dusty orange bulb at the bottom of the stairs. So we're getting ready to skip scenes and we're going to go to the diner in just a moment. And so this chapter 12, is kind of uniquely structured. It starts at the police station with Madison. Then we go to Bo and the diner and his experience for the day. And then it comes back to the Madison at the police station later. And I really wanted to just leave this kind of tension and unnerving feeling in the air. So that, you were kind of wondering, well, wait, what's going on with that sheriff? What's going on with the records? What's going on with Madison? So you'd maybe be worrying about her a little bit while we go see what's going on with Bo. And I'll talk about Sheriff Theron later. All right, so we're at a different scene now. Back at the diner, lunchtime is about halfway over. Most of the park employees, which are there eating, are almost done with their meals. The usual suspects all make their presence known. Chatter, laughter, food grilling, pots clanging, water spraying on the dishes. It's the busiest it ever gets. Leading it all from the front register is Lacey. Happily rubbing her belly to keep her baby calm during the loud serving time, Lacey takes cash from customer after customer. She gives them their change as fast as possible, ensuring they all feel thankful for having dined there. She smiles and talks to the patrons as the line dwindles down. Yes, thank you. No, really, thank you. It was good? Yeah, I'm hungry too. We're both hungry. Oh, she's going to be born with a cheeseburger in her hand for sure. Anyway, the tip jar is right there. Every little bit helps. Thanks, thank you. Thanks a bunch. Appreciate it. As she speaks with them one after the other, the register opens, closes, dings, and slams shut. By the end of all the chaos, the tip jar is full and Lacey's energy is empty. As a group of park employees leaves the diner, Bo comes running in from outside. He sees the door to the back room closing just as Lacey walks through them. He runs through the dining area, passes the register, and pushes the double doors open as they close in his face. That sequence, that little mini kind of lunch serving montage, I really wanted to show the sweetness of Lacey, the sincerity of Lacey. Even though it is hard work, she genuinely loves it. She likes taking care of people. She likes cooking food for people. And even though she's, insanely pregnant and really tired, she still finds the energy to have a positive attitude and really just kind of an everyday life heroic moment for Lacey, in my opinion. Lacey hears the door slam behind her and turns around. She puts her hand on her chest and exhales in relief. She starts scared, then gets angry. Oh, Lord have mercy, you scared the bejesus out of me. What the heck are you doing here? Bo walks up to her. I just needed to see you and make up for the last few nights. I can't take you mad at me. Lacey doesn't want to hear it. Apparently you can, because it's all you try to do lately. Best thing you did the last few days is take my advice and not come home. I've been sleeping rather soundly and comfortably, just me and Billy and the baby. I'm sure your mom likes having you home too. So because I retroactively had to I added 3 new chapters, This dialogue was a little bit different. I think this dialogue took place where Bo was only gone one night, the night of Hank telling him that he's a werewolf. So when I added the extra chapters and I added the extra nights to show that Bo has really been on kind of a bender lately, I had to change the dialogue completely to make it match more that, oh, he's been gone for a few nights, not just one night. So, and when you're talking about, 300 plus pages, 25 chapters, trying to organize everything, keep everything, this makes sense here, which makes sense here, which makes sense here. It's kind of very difficult when you start changing things. Like, oh, this character has 2 kids. Now they have 1. Now I have to go through the whole book and see, was there any other references to you and your kids? And I have to make it kid. So that all those little changes are really hard to do, which is why I try my best to at least have the basics down before I write anything. Let's see. No, I ruined one of her nights for sure. Bo talking about the night he found Hank. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was out all night and slept at our place after you already left for work. A teenage employee walks into the back room area backward, carrying a stack of boxes to put in the compactor. They interrupt Bo and Lacey talking. After a brief staring contest, the employee continues around them and goes to break down the boxes. Lacey uses this break in the conversation to walk away from Bo. He reaches out and grabs her arm. Don't leave me here. I want to resolve this. Bo is getting desperate. Lacey looks down at Bo, grabbing her arm against her wishes, and is seething as she looks up at him. Let go now. Bo realizes he has crossed the line and immediately lets go of her arm. Lacey looks around to see if anyone saw what occurred, worried and very embarrassed. She then walks toward the compactor area to assist the employee with breaking down boxes. As she turns the corner, a loud shriek is let out. Oh! That's Lacey falling. Buy the book. The voices are better in your head. $4.99, link in description. A resounding hollow thud follows her scream in pain. Bo immediately runs after her as he fears the worst. He turns the corner and Lacey is lying on the ground holding her belly. There are empty cardboard boxes strewn about the floor. Stepping on one apparently caused her to slip. Bo is petrified and trembling. Lacey, baby, are you okay? Lacey catches her breath and then reassures him. I'm okay, I'm all right. I didn't fall too far. These boxes took the brunt of it. Bo reaches out his hand to help her and she also reaches up toward him. Just before their hands clasp, Bo feels something. His love and sudden intense concern for Lacey finally pushes him over the edge. Sweating profusely as his head begins to shake uncontrollably, he pulls his hand away from her. She's confused and quite understandably livid. What the heck? Bo looks at her, bursting with fear and uncertainty before he turns to leave. After he runs away, the young diner employee continues helping Lacey stand up. Oh, yes, please. Thank you, Lacey says. So, you're trying to create drama, you're trying to create conflict. Bo has been in the doghouse for a few days. He's trying to make things right with Lacey. Lacey has this scary fall. He's there to protect her. He's there to save her. She reassures him, I'm okay. And his overwhelming love and concern for her because he thought something was wrong with her finally pushes him over the edge and we start to get a werewolf moment. And I just thought that it would come at the most opportune time where the moment he was literally reaching out his hand to help pick her up, he pulls his hands away and leaves her on the floor. I just thought that would be kind of really dramatic and interesting to occur and realistic based on the rules that I've set up and the emotional stress that he'd been put in to be pushed over the edge. Bo slams out the front doors outside the diner, almost shattering the glass. He's holding the right side of his abdomen as his sweat-drenched body trembles. Making his way to his truck, Bo quickly jumps into the driver's seat. He looks at himself in the rearview mirror and sees his eye color start to change from blue to bright yellow. While putting the key in the ignition, his yellow glowing eyes notice more arm hair on the top of his hand than usual. He punches the accelerator with his lead foot and does a 180-degree spin to pull away from the diner, exiting the parking lot and getting out on the roadway. He continues to hold his side because he feels something strange underneath his shirt. He lifts it up and sees a patch of dark blue hair forming and growing. It starts on his abdomen's right side and spreads throughout his body. As he places his hand back on the patch of hair, he realizes it feels good. He's not in any pain at all, quite the opposite. He keeps his hand on his abdomen over his clothes and notices it feels even better. He turns down a side street as paying attention to the road is getting harder and harder. So for my big werewolf transformation scene in the story, a lot of unique things happen. First of all, it's happening in the daytime. Second of all, we find out that he's blue, which the cover art actually kind of teases. You think it's just blue mountains, but it also kind of teases a blue wolf. And then you find out that the transformation is a good feeling. Whereas every werewolf story I've ever consumed in my life, it's painful. I thought that I could make it really unique by making it something that they enjoyed, that they liked, that they looked forward to, that maybe they had trouble not changing, because that's maybe something that they would want to do a lot. And so it's probably really divisive. There's probably some people that don't really like it, but that's one of the most unique things about this story, is the fact that the wolves enjoy changing, which I've never heard that before. Maybe it does, maybe it exists somewhere, but I've never been familiar with something like that. Finally, away from the major businesses, Bo whips his truck off-road and drives through wide-open plains. He's bouncing up and down in his seat, smiling and laughing. Giggling starts against his will, seemingly out of nowhere, and the more rubbing that happens to his abdomen, the better it feels. Several hundred yards away from any buildings, he abruptly slams on the brakes and stops immediately. He is so overwhelmed with pleasure that he feels compelled to put his other hand inside of his pants. However, his instinct for self-gratification is short-lived, as he finds that the abdomen where the fur grows is much more enjoyable. Bo continues to moan and groan at an almost embarrassing rate before a euphoria washes over him and drowns out all sound. He slowly gets out of his truck and continues smiling with glee. So yeah, I just figured a werewolf having a real good time driving a truck in the middle of a Wyoming wide-open plains is something I've never seen or read, and you may not ever see or read anywhere else than this book. And so I just was just like, this is the most unique transformation scene I could come up with, and it makes sense for the character, it makes sense for the world, and again, it makes sense for the story, because Hank had warned him, get away from people, go get away from people. He slowly gets out of his truck and continues smiling. The fur continues to grow around him as his pants begin to rip at the ankles and thighs. He looks at himself in the side mirror of his truck and sees that his face has grown a snout, and the dark blue fur is continuing from his abdomen up his shoulders and around his face. The self-aware horror is almost overwhelming, but Bo also cannot deny the glorious sensation he is experiencing. Cackling maniacally, he takes one last look at himself before staring straight up at the blinding midday sun. His shirt's And again, the fact, well, usually when it's not your first time changing, as Hank said, you choose when to change. That's also really unique. So my stories can actually have werewolves in the daytime, which almost never happen because 99% of the time it's under moonlight. His shirt rips in half as he falls to his hands and knees behind the truck. It's a small attempt at trying to shield himself from the rest of the world, but it's better than nothing. Under the truck bed from the other side, he crawls on the ground toward the back. As he creeps, his coughing and laughter get deeper and deeper, sounding scarier and more wolf-like. All his extremities grow to larger versions of themselves, and his whole body is devoured by fur. Below the wafting blue hair, pounds and pounds of impenetrable muscle bulk up underneath it all around his body. As his power takes shape, the fur hardens at the end to become razor-like. It maintains a feathery response to the wind, but acts like thousands of piercing needles that further protect him. He scrapes against the side of his truck, causing near infinite scratches down the entire side of it, like butcher knives slicing across a steel-plated wall. Now that the changing is near the end, his hands and feet have been replaced with giant wolf paws and large black claws sticking out the ends of his nails. Shreds of his clothing are stuck to the razor fur as his transformation finally completes. His new full wolf form shows his snout behind the back tire. As he exhales out of his nose, a large cloud of dust kicks up from the ground, almost concealing him entirely. That transformation scene was very hard to write. I'm watching a movie in my head. I'm seeing Bo transform. I'm trying to write it in a way that I'm seeing it. And again, I'm trying to make it really cinematic where I'm teasing his changes. We see the eyes and then a little bit of fur and it's in a reflection. And then as he gets out, we can see more fur on him than he even realizes is happening. Then he catch a glimpse of himself in the side view mirror and sees a snout. And then see him, breathing heavily and hear his voice change. Like really wanted like the mystery and intrigue of like a classic werewolf transformation that you would see in a movie in book form. Suddenly calm, the parked truck sits alone in an isolated clearing near the outskirts of Blue Ridge. A flock of birds flying nearby has suddenly vanished, and the land has gone silent, but for a faint breeze bustling the bushes. Schlink, schlink. Two large wolf claws reach up from behind the truck, one at a time, grabbing the edge of the truck bed. Wolf Bo leverages it for momentum, almost cutting it in half in the process. Just before the truck snaps, he launches himself high into the air. The park mountains blur behind him in slow motion as Bo the blue wolf flies forward with claws outstretched. He snarls, slobbers, and heaves, darting his eyes around, looking for somewhere to land and something to eat. So yeah, giant blue wolf flying through the air in the middle of a Wyoming day. I just thought that, I just was really excited writing it, and I'm excited again reading it. Just things that you've never seen or read before, hopefully. He crashes down in the middle of the street on one of the side roads he recently drove past. The diner can be seen in the distance about 100 yards away. Standing next to a light pole, it's evident that Wolf Bo is much taller and clears at least 8 feet. He starts to pick up speed and run down the middle of the road. As he does this, a few stragglers leaving the diner look down the street and see Wolf Bo in broad daylight. The bystanders who happen to see this silently pat each other on their shoulders and point, trying to make sure everyone looks at what is happening. A few of them get their smartphones out and begin recording videos. Wolf Bo continues to pick up speed and drops to all fours to increase it even more. So then, as I was writing it, I was like, okay, I got through the transformation scene. Is there anything that I can do that's more interesting or more impactful? And I thought, let's literally run down Main Street in broad daylight and have to deal with modern technology. So that's why we get this in the middle of the road. Let's see. He drops to all fours to increase the speed even more. As he approaches the crowd by the diner, one of the witnesses goes to the back of their car to try and get their shotgun. As Wolf Bo reaches the group, the witness takes a shot at him in full stride and lands a shot, but the bullet bounces off the impenetrable razor fur. Bo leaps up to one of the streetlights and relaunches himself. He lands on the roof of an apartment building dozens of yards away. The witness with the shotgun tries to point it at him again, but realizes that Wolf Bo has jumped out of reach. Atop the building that was landed on, Wolf Bo stands on his hind legs and looks down at the town of Blue Ridge. He then leans his head back and bellows a deep and ferocious howl that echoes throughout the streets. So, big time wolf transformation for Bo. Pretty much the entire chapter. There's almost no dialogue outside of the Madison bookends. It's all descriptive. To me, it's very exciting. It was very exciting to write, very exciting to reread. Hopefully it's exciting for other people that read it as well. If you're enjoying this chapter, you find that it's a lot of fun, again, please pick up at least the digital copy for $4.99. It makes a big difference and will help me motivate me as I'm trying to work on book 2. Meanwhile, in the basement of the police station, Madison and Sheriff Theron are going through old police records in the dim and dusty room. The sheriff stops looking through the box before him to continue a conversation. Madison sorts through the files vigorously, anxious to find what she seeks so she can leave. The sheriff rudely inquires, "So what does this report even matter anymore? It was so long ago." Madison looks at him to insinuate that it was a poor choice of words. The sheriff tries to course correct. "Well, for the report, Obviously, the losses you endured, that grieving never has an expiration date." Madison glares without a response, then looks right back down at the box of folders. She talks as she searches. "It matters because someone recently told me that the accident we had last week had much in common with my family's. So I just want to know. I want to see." The sheriff questions further. "Understandable. This person who told you this, is it credible? You think it's anything we need to reopen an investigation for?" "It's my son." She stops herself from calling Bo her son. "It's my son's friend, he told me." "I see." "Sheriff, do you know who bought the wrecked car that my family died in?" Madison is blunt and expects a direct answer. He's taken aback by the aggressive question and pauses a moment before he responds. "Well, as I said, miss, it's kind of all a blur, really. Time is good for the soul, but hard on the mind." "We don't have souls. Think hard." Madison's not messing around. The sheriff becomes big-eyed and puckers his lips, desperate to find a thought that will satiate Madison's inquisitiveness. Well, I guess what I do recollect is that at some point the salvage yard went ahead and took over ownership before it was destroyed. But I don't know really anything about what happens with vehicles after they're inspected. That's above my pay grade, unfortunately." "I see." Madison is very doubtful. "Do you have the coroner's information here, too?" No, just the traffic cases here, ma'am." "Did you know who he was? Maybe we can call him." Madison is anxious to get the coroner's information. The sheriff becomes more direct with her. "He passed away, sadly, shortly after these events transpired." The walls suddenly feel like they are squeezing Madison tightly, and the basement here with the sheriff feels significantly less safe. She gulps and exhales before returning her attention to the police report files. After a few more brief moments, she pulls one out. This is it! Just before she can open it, the sheriff rips it out of her hands. He's strangely ecstatic. That's fantastic news! Let me just go make you your copy and you can head on home. The sheriff tries to walk fast up the stairs, but Madison follows closely behind him. They get back up to the main floor and turn to head to the front desk area. The sheriff motions for her to go back to the main lobby area on the other side of the double doors. She slowly complies, always keeping her eyes on him. Madison watches as he uses the printer scanner in the office to make her the copies requested. She stares in anticipation as each paper is scanned and duplicated. It finally completes, and the sheriff picks up the stack of documents. He turns around and faces the glass. Officer Tony reaches out to grab them for him, but the sheriff ignores her and goes straight to the window himself. Here you go, ma'am. Hope you find what you're looking for. The sheriff smiles as he talks. He then slowly starts to slide the copy of the police report under the glass. Just before Madison can grab it, all three of them hear the loud gunshot of the witness shooting Wolfbow as they have now caught up to the events that recently transpired. They all look at each other with worried curiosity. See, I really loved this idea of a little bit of playing with time where you assume as the reader that we're going forward in time coming back to Madison, but actually we are seeing the events that was transpiring with Madison while Bo was upstairs running around. So I like this idea of going backwards a little bit, getting caught up with Madison's tension and bringing them to a head and having Bo's transformation actually kind of interrupt and interject what was going on with Madison. Madison quickly snatches the police report under the glass and runs towards the front door. Just before she exits the station, the imposing and ferocious wolf howl Bo created prior can be heard. The sheriff and his officer follow right behind her. As they all get outside, the police station is south of where all the action is happening. They look north up the street and catch the last glimpse of Wolfbow, as the blue razor fur from the back of his shoulder can be seen jumping behind the building away from town. The crowd in front of the diner murmurs in shock as a torn white piece of cloth floats through the air. It lands at the feet of Sheriff Theron, who squints at the horizon, knowing he needs to find out what's going on. So, again, another really exciting chapter. That is chapter 12. I've had a lot of people that read the book tell me, I really liked the book. I genuinely liked it. The beginning is a little bit slow, but there is definitely a point in the story where you absolutely have to know what happens next. And that point might be different for everybody else, but for me, when I'm reading, it's chapter 11. It's everything that has been going on since Hank told Bo that he was a wolf, and then having the transformation, and then having Madison go and meet Sheriff Theron and find out that there's this shady sheriff, and there may be question as to the police report that she just obtained, calling back to the past mystery. This is like really when things are really cooking and really interesting and exciting for me. So I feel like that, yeah, these last two chapters, 11 and 12, really hold up and really push forward a momentum that was maybe not there purposely, because it was a little bit, a slower start to really make it feel like a real world. So now that we're in a real world and a more fantastical stuff is happening, I'm accepting it as a reader, even though that I wrote it. Hopefully, if you are following along in the story, you're accepting it as well. And if you enjoyed this chapter or have enjoyed any previous chapters, please consider picking up the book. The digital version is only $4.99. There are links in this video description for all different versions of the book. If you want to follow my author journey long term to see what I do with book 2 and beyond, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. If you do comment, please keep it spoiler free or a healthy spoiler warning, and keep it relegated to this chapter, no future spoilers. As always, thank you for watching or listening, and I'll see you in the next video.